Feels better. And so for everybody, I am recording, and then I'm going to stop video because of mine, not yours. And Tori's the chair.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Brittany. Good evening. Okay, so that's Brittany Jones. Okay. Welcome, Brittany. Other Brittany. So now your pronunciation, you prefer Brittany? You're muted, Britt.
I'm muted. Okay.
There you are. Now you're not.
Okay.
Oh, how do you prefer to pronounce your name versus Brittany?
Brittany,
Oh,
Brittany, just, you know.
I'll call you Brittany, and I'll
Okay.
call her Brittany. Okay, so who's going first? Brittany, right?
I think I'm going first, right, Brittany?
Yes.
Okay, give me
Brittany
1
Jones.
second.
Okay, well, we're not ready yet. First, you have 2 minutes. If you have any announcements or anything that you'd like to share that's not on the agenda. Hugh, do you have anything for this week that you can think of? I have one. I have one from ScanPH, which is Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing. Now, this is, there's going to do a webinar on May 5th. It's called Capitalizing on Technology Solutions in Affordable Housing, Opportunities to Reap Gains for Residents and Building Operations. So that's going to be an interesting webinar. So if anyone's interested, just let me know and I'll try to get the link to you, but you can always Google ScanPH is the acronym, SCANPH. And also the same organization just had affordable housing resilience training, which is a toolkit for nonprofit agencies to prepare for and respond to future disasters. So, and they want to do, it's called RYLAN. It's an acronym, RYLAN. It's called Ready Your LA Neighborhood Program. So it's a newly adapted program that helps residents in multifamily properties support one another through emergencies. So that's the same organization, ScanPH. And that's the only announcement I have for tonight. If you have an agenda, it may say a little, it's gonna be tweaked a little bit today because of my acknowledgement of Hugh tried to reach the councilman and we didn't get anybody for this month. So hopefully they'll be able to come next meeting next month and we'll talk more in depth about the Measure H and the funding that's still out there for housing. So that'll be next month. So this month we would like to welcome LAHSA, which is Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority. And I would like to know, I haven't met either of you in person yet, but a little bit, I'm usually the homeless count when we had a homeless count before COVID coordinator. So maybe you can elaborate on a little bit of that also, what the plan is in the future to do the count, because the people in the marina and other areas also had reached out to me to see what had happened in their area as well. So with no further ado, Hugh, did you have anything, any 2 minutes? We have 2 minutes if you have public announcements. Maxine, would you like to tell us anything about your organization?
Oh, okay. I'm a for-profit organization, WinMax Construction Corporation. I'm a general building contractor, and I've been in the community since the 70s and quite interested in all the issues that's on your agenda.
Thank you. Yes, anything we can do to help with housing, that would be wonderful. Anything else? David, Donna, any public announcements? Donna, you want to announce when the next meeting for West Adams Avenues?
West Adams Avenues meets on the second Wednesday of May for the next time. I do have announcements about which would put it I think at the 12th next time, May 12th.
May 12th.
I wanted to announce that every Tuesday, except for the 27th, which is next week, for those of you who were at our meeting, there won't be vaccines at the 10th district at 18th and Western. But after that, for the next month on, every Tuesday from 9 to noon. And also there's pop-up at Holman, I was told by Laura, on Wednesdays. So anyone, and they're both Pfizer, so please share it with people you know. And the best time of, as always, is to go in the morning. People want to go in the afternoons, but normally the morning is the best for all the pop-ups. And West Angeles does one every Sunday at the cathedral, behind the cathedral, and that same thing. 10 o'clock is always good. So if you know anyone who needs to do a walk-up, because most of them are, they accept walk-ups with no problem. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, all good information. Okay, well, usually right after announcements, we have a brief round robin, and that's whatever the hot topics are of the day. So whatever you heard in the news regarding housing and homelessness, most of it is not good news. So, but we have to talk about how can we prevent a lot of these fires that are happening around. I briefly heard as I was walking by, and I didn't really retain what the business was, but it was a housing that's been around for over 100 years, and it was burned down. Did anybody know about that? It's supposed to have been a historic housing property. It just flashed on the news today. So I was just wondering, did anyone else hear anything about that?
Where was it, Tori?
That's what I'm saying. I was briefly walking through and I heard it.
No.
I'm gonna unmute you, David. I'm gonna unmute you, Hugh. And no, Hugh. Okay, David. I don't know where David went.
Hi,
He's
I'm
on.
here.
Oh, okay. I'm unmuting everyone. Brittany. Okay, I'm gonna leave everyone unmuted. We don't have to be muted. We know how to control and raise and use electronic hand signals. So did anyone else hear anything like that this week, today? Not yet. Okay. What other hot topics? Anything else?
The judge.
The who?
The judge.
Judge Carter?
Yes. That's
okay.
the hottest topic going.
Well, that is a hot topic too.
Yes,
we do
it
know
is.
that.
I just want to have him for Thanksgiving. So
you did what?
I'm going to have him for Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, well, I may have to come over to your house for Thanksgiving.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, that is a hot topic. Judge Carter has put a mandate on all of our city officials that are in leadership in California regarding homelessness, and is urging them to come up with some type of solution to address this humanity issue of having all the people laying on the street in California, in Los Angeles County for sure. So we're eagerly awaiting to see what a lot of those solutions are. I'm gonna address some of the numbers briefly later in the program, but I'm interested to see what everyone comes up with. Somebody mentioned to me that Koretz has a really good plan in his area. I didn't get a chance to look at his website or webpage today yet, but I will when I finish, because Koretz usually does come up with pretty good ideas. And so I'm really curious to see what he came up with for his solution in his area. And that's something I have been saying all along. Each council person should take charge of their own area, and with assistance, from the liaisons on the council, from the organizations and the nonprofit. I think the ones that have an overabundance, like Kern's area, downtown in the 9th, then they can pitch in and help each other after they clean up their own. But like our area has nowhere near the amount they have downtown. And I don't think anyone else does between Hollywood, Santa Monica. Santa Monica seems to be getting a grasp on theirs is nowhere near like it was. I never forget going to Santa Monica one day and it was a homeless person in every business doorway. I mean, every business on the way to the beach. So I was like, oh my God. So they cleaned theirs up tremendously since what, the mid-90s. So I think that if each council person would take hold and take responsibility and really get compassionate about placement, that it could be done in conjunction with a lot of the hotel owners who do not have 100% stays or they have empty beds and are willing to contract with the county and the city, that we could find a place for everyone. So that's something they're working on now by mandate. And so it's gotten so out of control that you have, and I've always said too, you cannot control homelessness until you can control when people become homeless every day. And there's things that can stop. They finally got it throughout the pandemic. They really started focusing on it because of what happened in the economy. But that's just keep an eye out on Judge Carter and the mandate for housing. So that's it for that right now. I'm gonna go ahead and let Brittany Jones. Brittany just came on board today to do this, right? Brittany?
I mean, me and Brittany and I all started on the same day, but I think this might be the first time I've come to this particular meeting. I think I did go to one SPA 6 meeting, but I don't believe it was this one.
It wasn't. But I'm glad you're here today. So I would like to introduce you, but I need a proper title for you for LASA.
Yeah.
But you let us know how long you've been at LASA. And you came from New York, right?
I sure did. News travels fast.
Oh yeah, I'm quick.
I'm actually,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm actually from LA. And so actually coming back home. So it's really exciting. I actually grew up near Florence Graham area, but I've lived in LA pretty much all my life. And then I moved to the East Coast for school, came back, and then I ended up moving to New York to work in homeless services there. So I've spent I think I worked 6 years in New York. In addition to that, I was volunteering and doing a lot of work here on homelessness before moving to the coast. So new to LASA, but not new to homeless services. A lot of similar conversations, are always cross-pollinating, but happy to be here. And my title, I'm the Associate Director of Government and Community Relations. And so the great news is soon, I'm hiring right now, I will have staff for SPA 6. And for your community, they'll be able to attend these meetings because, of course, there's just one me and tons of these meetings. So I definitely need the staff to do that. And we're really excited to have someone who can really reach out to you, answer your questions, sort of talk about what's going on at LASA, but also to talk about what work there is to be done and how we can get it done.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
So
And
I'll let you go ahead. I'm gonna let you continue and do your whole spiel, and then we'll ask questions after.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share a little bit of information. Brittany and I will go over this stuff together. We work together, so I'll let her introduce herself. But so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on LASA. Have you guys actually met Brittany before?
I don't believe I met Brittany Hill.
We've never met.
And I still can't see her today, but have we met Brittany?
No, we've never met.
Okay.
I'm new to LASA. This is literally month 2 today. It's our anniversary. Yes.
Oh, well, happy anniversary.
Is it our anniversary? I didn't realize that, Brittany.
Yes, it is.
You guys came the same day?
Yes. What a
I need my anniversary gift, Brittany. I'm waiting.
Okay, I'll give you mine, give you yours, and you give me mine.
Okay, I'll see you in the office one day.
2 months. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to give you a quick general overview of what LASA is and sort of what we do. So as you may or may not know, LASA has been around since around 1993. And it was created by the County Board of Supervisors. And it was really a response to sort of an argument over who was really responsible for homelessness, not only in LA, but in LA County. There was a spat more or less LA County and LA City about how to deal with homelessness. So out of that, LAHSA was created through a joint powers authority, which divvies up sort of the responsibilities and the funding between the county and the city. And it also helps to administer the funds that are provided at the state and federal level as well. And so LAHSA, to that end, manages over $660 million annually in federal, state, county, and city funds for programs that provide shelter, housing, and other services like outreach throughout LA County. And so what role does LAHSA play in the relationship with the city of Los Angeles? So LAHSA partners with both the city and county of Los Angeles to integrate services and housing opportunities to ensure a wide distribution of service and housing options throughout Los Angeles continuum of care. And so if you're not familiar, the Los Angeles continuum of care is pretty much all of LA County with a few exceptions, which include Pasadena and Long Beach. And so what services does LAHSA provide? So through LAHSA, funding, program design, outcome, technical assistance are all provided to more than 100 nonprofit partner agencies that assist people experiencing homelessness achieve independence and stability in permanent housing. So our partner agencies, which are those nonprofits that I was mentioning, provide a continuum of programs ranging from outreach, access centers, emergency shelters, safe havens, transitional and permanent housing, and prevention, along with necessary supportive services, which are designed to provide the tools and skills required to attain a stable housing environment. So during COVID-19, obviously that's front of mind for everyone. We're still not quite out of that. You guys were talking about vaccinations earlier. We have Project Room Key, which was developed and coordinated as an effort to secure hotel and motel rooms, which allowed us to do de-densification of our congregate housing locations. So in LA County, it was used as temporary shelter for people experiencing homelessness who are at high risk for hospitalization if they contract COVID-19. So high risk populations that are included there include people who are 65 and older, as well as those who are suffering from chronic illness. So people have been placed in Project Room Key rooms by service providers who assess them first to ensure that they qualify for the program. And so in September of 2020, LAHSA began transitioning from Project Room Key to COVID-19 Recovery Plan, which features intentional strategies to move the most vulnerable people first experiencing homelessness out of emergency shelter and into long-term housing solutions. So the goal is to ensure that people who are sheltered do not return to the streets. And then as far as what the plan is for an equitable distribution of resources to various areas of our continuum of care, which as I mentioned is all of LA County with those two exceptions, with no homeless count being done in 2021. So we're actually working with the Los Angeles County Homeless Initiative to maintain the current Measure H funding level. And for federal funding, such as Continuum of Care program funds and HUD, did not release its annual NOFA and continued to fund all renewals. So that didn't have a drastic impact there. And what's new for this year? So Winter Shelter Program. The Winter Shelter Program is an annual program to provide people experiencing homelessness during the colder months shelter. So winter shelters are located all across the county and they will be operating in 24 hours a day. And this year, because of COVID-19, there have been some extensions there. And they're operating until October 31st, 2021, which is not the norm, but it's absolutely necessary right now. So for more info and updates, you can find that online and I'm happy to share that link in the chat. And now I'm gonna pass it on to Brittany.
Okay,
Thanks.
Brittany.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Brittany. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
I'm just going to pick up at how best as community members can you guys work with LAHSA to help and support our unhoused neighbors in the area. The best avenue for working with us and our outreach teams is through LA HOP. LA HOP is our online portal where you can provide information about individuals, families, or youth that you may see who are experiencing homelessness. Each request that's submitted in LA HOP is assigned to a LASA team, a proactive team, or a partner agency for them to go out and engage with that person experiencing homelessness. When you do submit a LA HOP request, you will receive an email acknowledging that the report was received. But due to confidentiality, the system is not designed to provide any follow-up information. What is the usual sequence of events for outreach? And how does LASA find people to engage? Approximately what portion of people decline services? How often does LASA attempt to make contact after declination of services? So within LASA, we have more than 150 outreach workers engaging with people experiencing homelessness across the county. I actually think that number is to 194 or 196 now. Our outreach teams consist of 2 HET members, HET meaning homeless engagement team, and they're each assigned to a specific geographical location across the county. Each week, there are specific hotspots that are visited by the teams and are tracked within our homeless management information system database. Our partner agencies are also assigned to geographic areas across the county, and they do the same. They do outreach and report back into HMIS as well. And we use HMIS to track the resources and services that are being provided to all of our homeless neighbors within the county. So this allows for us to coordinate across our outreach system within the county.
Tell them what HIMS is.
It's the Homeless Management Information System. It's a database where we enter all of our notes and services that we provide to everyone experiencing homelessness. Within our outreach system in LA, there's several avenues that bring awareness to where we can find folks experiencing homelessness. Again, LA HOP, 311, and elected offices are examples of how we are connected to those experiencing homelessness. Our outreach teams engage with folks on a continual basis. And at the most important step in that process, it's to establish trust. So if you guys sent out an LA HOP request, we like to manage expectation that, you know, next Tuesday, if you submitted it last week, you're not going to go and see that person housed. Our outreach teams have to engage with folks and build those relationships. A lot of our homeless neighbors have not experienced the best relationships where they're able to trust folks right off the bat. So there are times when folks are not ready to talk with us, engage with us. And we find it important to let them know that no matter what, we're going to be back to check on them. We meet people where they're at, and it may take a week, it could take a month, it could take a year to build trust with folks. So our teams will continue to engage with individuals to ensure that they're provided with resources and services. With respect to the area of Crenshaw and Western and Pico and Jefferson, what services are available and how can the community help? Our HET teams provide proactive outreach in this area. They're visiting at least twice minimum weekly, as well as other service providers. And those services include, you know, providing survival resources, gift certificates for food, water, PPE. We know that the pandemic still affects our homeless neighbors, getting them connected to if they need substance abuse resources or treatment, mental health services. And we are also assessing for COVID vulnerability and tracking any symptoms that folks may have with our Keto app. And also, depending on the needs of those experiencing homelessness, we have various teams within our outreach system who help support people experiencing homelessness. Our HET members from LASA, they're generalist teams, and they work just to provide those resources and services that I mentioned. They also assist with DMV connection, getting folks documentation to get housing ready, so an ID or birth certificates. Other teams may provide more specialized services, which is why if you guys do a LA HOP request, we ask that you guys are very specific in what you're observing. If you see someone who may be running into the street because they're experiencing or may be experiencing a mental health crisis, it's important that you notate that. Because we send folks out according to the information that we get. So we don't want to send a generalist team out if this is someone who has severe mental health issues and needs support from a mental health clinician. So some of the teams that we send out and deploy are the multidisciplinary teams or veteran outreach and the Department of Mental Health. So as a system, we work together to connect folks to specialized services that they need. What are general challenges, legal, political, and personal, to finding housing and supportive services? With outreach, the greater challenge is the availability of housing. Our system has been fortunate to have tiny home villages being developed in certain locations for our homeless neighbors. Additionally, in some areas, we have Project Home Key units that have been developed to support our folks experiencing homelessness in our neighborhoods. Our system has also been really fortunate to have strong partnerships around supportive services. So with the help of service providers throughout LA, LASA and these service providers can connect folks experiencing homelessness with mental health services, substance abuse services, employment trainings, benefit supports, getting folks connected to Social Security income or general relief, and other services as needed. Next, I will let Brittany talk about the Project Room Key updates.
Okay, thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome.
Okay, Brittany.
All right, so I don't really have too many updates on Project Room Key, but in January, there was a federal policy change that increased FEMA reimbursement to 100%, which is great for all non-congregate housing through September of 2021. And that's what is allowing that extension that I talked about briefly earlier. In February, the city extended their 3 existing sites, approximately 900 rooms for several months. And then in March, the county extended 10 of their existing sites, approximately 1,000 rooms for several months. And in April, the city expanded Project Room Key to bring 6 new sites online, approximately 525 rooms. And as far as the overall PRK placements, we've placed more than 7,700 COVID vulnerable people experiencing homelessness into a PRK site, which is Project Room Key. Approximately 600 participants have moved into Project Room Key as a result of site extensions and recent expansions. So as far as PRK demobilization, it's a multi-agency effort, and it's an intensive wrap down of the model that was designed to ensure PRK participants exit to safe and stable temporary or permanent housing. We don't want people just to sort of leave the PRK location and end up back on the streets. And 3 sites have totaled 280 rooms that are in active ramp down currently. So that's right now. And so the outcomes are that less than 4% of the exits are exiting to unsheltered destination, meaning back to the streets. And then 600 participants have enrolled at a demobilizing site, have been placed into permanent housing, with the majority of those continuing to progress through their housing plans. And you can get some updates on this on lasa.org. And then Brittany.
Thanks, Brittany. I'll talk a little bit about preliminary data. So you guys want to know a little bit about the recently adopted problem-solving approach with higher acuity people. So problem solving, it's a humanistic approach that attempts to reduce system inflow by preventing homelessness or promoting quick exits from episodes of homelessness when possible. In LA County, it's a person-centered short-term housing intervention that seeks to creatively assist households in maintaining their current housing or identifying an immediate and safe housing alternative, either independently or within their own social network. Problem solving attempts to empower households by tapping into their existing strengths, goals, and resources. So all households must be engaged with a problem-solving conversation at the onset of receiving housing support services and at the end of every facet of the homeless service system. up until they're housed again, regardless of perceived needs or barriers. So it can be hard to identify as problem solving, as it doesn't involve traditional assessments. Therefore, it is possible that someone who may score as high acuity had a resolve to their housing crisis and altogether avoid the system. So if there's any questions regarding problem solving, you guys can email problemsolving@lhasa.org. But I'm going to put the link to that in the chat if I have that option.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Clementina has arrived also.
Hi, Clementina.
But I asked her
Hi,
to-
everyone. Sorry. Thank you. And
That's okay.
apologies for joining late.
Oh, that's okay. We're all being avid listeners here. Problem solving chat is a step in the right direction. That's good. An email for that, so we can communicate more frequently.
We'll talk.
Brittany?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we
Okay.
can.
So many municipalities are considering offering safe camping or sleeping areas, in part to remove people from dangerous locations like flammable brush, to areas where there's some security and services connected. Has that been considered in Los Angeles? Yes, absolutely. There are several safe parking programs. So safe parking is where vehicle dwellers with the safe and legal can have a safe and legal place to sleep at night. Safe parking programs can also be available to people who meet the following criteria. An individual or family who's experiencing homelessness or actively fleeing DV, living in their vehicle and has an operable vehicle. And services provided at Safe Sleep are access to park a vehicle in a safe parking lot with on-site security and restrooms, access to have a coordinated entry system assessment completed, referrals and linkages to community resources, access to case management on site, financial assistance, and benefit connection. Site amenities vary according to each site. And then accessing safe parking programs. So safe parking programs can be accessed by contacting or visiting a service provider in your area. And again, site amenities can vary according to which site it is. And the number of available parking spaces and capacity to accommodate RVs are subject to change and are dependent on the makeup of the vehicles in the parking lot. So if you guys are interested or know someone who's interested and needs a safe sleeping or safe parking spot, you guys can reach out to any local service providers in your area. And also, just to add to that, there is a Safe Sleep that's not limited to folks with vehicles that is coming online very soon, probably next week. And so we'll have an update for you guys later on how that goes. It'll be
What was
near
that one, Brittany? What was that coming next week?
the Safe Sleep that's not limited to folks with vehicles.
The camping one, right? The one
Yes.
called safe camping? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then
Okay.
lastly, a Judge Carter update. What is the current legal status with finding housing for under the freeways? So there are several housing options that are being implemented in local council districts to provide housing for our unhoused neighbors. Some of the options included Project Room Key, tiny home villages, bridge home sites, and augmented winter shelter sites. So LASA is currently working with several council districts simultaneously to determine areas in their district where engagement with persons experiencing homelessness should be prioritized. LASA launched a pilot project in a handful of council districts, which allowed LASA and other outreach partners to look at areas under the freeways to provide those living there with needed resources. And so that pilot program has taken off. We have 15 roadmap teams who are specific to these freeway adjacent encampments. and providing housing opportunities designated by local council districts.
Okay.
And now we'll open it
So
up.
has he given them a time frame?
So they did have a deadline of April 16th to bring online 5,300 beds, which they accomplished. April 16th, there was an availability of 5,500 beds for folks in these areas.
What, was there a majority or did they spread them out evenly over the council districts?
So it's not spread across council districts. It honestly depends on the housing opportunities that the council districts came up with. So if some council districts had more space, had more leverage to get properties to house these folks, and so those council districts did see more folks getting housed. But as we know, I'm sorry, as we know, people.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tori.
I just said as long as they exceeded expectations, that's all. Go ahead.
Yes, as a city, they exceeded expectations. And I was just going to add to that to say, as we know, people who are experiencing homelessness, they often migrate from one place to another. So while someone's council district may not have had many beds available, perhaps those folks experiencing homelessness in that area could have still been captured as they migrated to another area.
Yes, sure.
And that completes our presentation.
Oh, okay. Are there any questions anyone has for Brittany? Clementine, did you want to say a few words before we do Q&A?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we will be working with the community regarding homeless count. So within the next couple of months, we'll be working on inviting the community to provide feedback on a street count app that we're planning to utilize for January 2022. So look out for that.
Okay, let me know in enough time.
Of course.
Because they reached out to me this year and I was like, what, where? Ooh. Because usually I do everything through Holman, you know, and so we were corresponding. We had a new pastor came along and I was like, okay, Brittany, it was the other Brittany. So I said, okay, let's do this because I've done it for the past 8 to 10 years, right? And so I'm very familiar with most of what you were saying, except for the new mandates. I needed to be more acclimated. But I have a question. You said something about 220, who was it? Rev down? So 220 rev down time? What was that? That the hotels are revving down? Were those
I think you might be
220
referring.
displaced?
I think you might be referring to the beds. So some of the beds that were originally created for the Project Roomkey project are being ramped down. And some of those are also being ramped down, as I mentioned earlier, because clients are also being moved from those Project Roomkey sites to other long-term housing. Project Roomkey is not a long-term solution. It was extended into October, but that is partially contingent on federal state funds. And so that's extended through October, but really the ultimate goal is to get as many people as possible into longer term solutions and that they don't return to the street.
Right. Well, I came across a couple of gaps in that system. Initially, it was working really well. I mean, they were taking them from shelter to Project Roomkey. I watched the whole process at one of the hotels, but I just got a call about a week ago. One of the girls had been transferred from that hotel where I watched the intake, sent to Downey, then sent to another city, and all of a sudden now she's nowhere. She's, only has $70 left or so, paid for a room. Now she's back in the car. So I placed her in safe parking about 3 days ago. So hopefully you guys will be able to help with her. That's when Jessica reached out to Brittany Hill, I believe. And so I just want to make sure that she follows directions and instructions very well. So I don't know how it happened that she ended up being one of the ones with the gap, you know, one of the 220 rev downs probably. But I really hope that they catch those that fell through the cracks, you know? 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, I
they
know
ain't
that
supposed to
Brittany,
find them.
yeah, I know that Brittany myself can't talk about specific cases
No,
just
I
because of
know, no, I
confidentiality.
know.
But I did
Right.
want to say that safe parking does have services available. So people who are utilizing safe parking are still able to access a lot of those wraparound services, you know, obviously not in a traditional housing environment, right? But they still have case management access, and they're still able to access some of the other, you know, opportunities for, you know, whether it be vouchers, depends on what they qualify for. So it's, you know, impossible for me to speak to that one case, but she should
No,
still
I
be
know.
getting services.
Oh, I know you can't talk about one case in particular, but as far as confidentiality is concerned, usually the liaisons in the area have gained the trust of a lot of the people. And as far as confidentiality, I mean, I just have a concern with, as far as confidentiality is concerned, when I'm the one that called you, why can't we get some feedback as to if they've been placed or not? But 9 times out of 10, if it's somebody I called on, I have their telephone number and everything else. So they feel free to contact me if they need anything beyond that. But as far as you giving me information, I can see that being
Well,
confidential.
you have good intentions, but there are plenty of council districts that are seeking out information from us in order to try and disqualify people from housing. And so we just have to be really careful
Yeah,
because they want to
I
say, oh,
heard.
this person doesn't actually come from my council district, or this person shouldn't qualify for said housing, whatever it is, right? Because we have a segmented system the way it exists. And so, you know, the legal, it's an albatross, right? I know you're a good person, but you're not the norm. There's plenty of people who have intentions to sort of either disqualify people or move them, or just talk about in general, they try and extrapolate data to say, well, all these people are coming from wherever, Orange
That's
County.
true.
And so we have
I've
to be really
heard that.
careful. But if you have the information of that client, my best recommendation, and this is something I dealt with in New York as well, I would reach out directly to the client. Usually they have the paperwork. And if so, I don't know how you can get in contact with her, but she will know what's going on with her own case.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Any questions? Any, Maxine, David, Donna? I know, Donna, you have any questions?
No questions, been very informative.
Yes, yes, very good presentation. Hugh? Hugh, do you have any questions?
Nope, no questions.
I don't believe that. Give me one, give him one question. Okay, well, let me see what I have. The HMIS, about how many do you have in HMIS right now? And what's the average time that they are placed? I know you guys are probably too new to really answer that, but there's an average. I'm sure they talk about in management meetings or things like that.
So some of that, I can speak broadly. Some of that data is actually available online. A lot of it is actually available online. But I will also say that because of COVID-19, those days have extended. I believe that most of those stays were under, I don't know if it's 100 or 200 days. But now because of COVID, we're seeing stays that are extended, but that's because of special programs. So some of those stays are like 400 days, right? Because COVID's been going on for over a year. So the data that we have, I don't think is actually even really representative of the norm. You would actually be better off looking at 2019. And I don't know what that data is, but it is online. So if I'm going to look for the dashboard now, if Brittany or Clementina knows where it is, that might be helpful.
Okay. Oh yeah, I visit quite often. Now, LA Hot, anybody on this call, right? Should be, who's that? Somebody's calling in. Okay, that must be Clementina on the iPhone. Okay.
Anyone can use LA Hot.
I was gonna say, anyone on the call or on this line should be able to contact LA Hop, right? So would you want to put that in the chat as well, so everyone will have access in case they need to call someone in emergency? We had one young lady that was in our area that just had to take baths and showers, and it got to the point, it was like an obsessive compulsive behavior, because she would take her clothes off, go into the fountain in the park, and children or anyone was in the park, and they just was like, oh my God, you know, so they would call us and we'd have to talk to her. So finally I told her where the showers were, if she could get there, you know, but I tell you, it's something else out there. But when something like that happens, I usually try to reach the outreach team. So how accessible, since you have what, 196 workers in outreach right now, how accessible or how quick could they get to a particular site? Or who do we know that's over our area right now, since they restructured a lot of things since COVID? Because usually I can pick up the phone and say, look, so-and-so, we're having an incident over here. I got pulled into a scene the other day where it was like 4 police cars and the police truck. And so I just intervened because I knew 5 of the police out of the 6. So I was able to intervene, and one of the girls' sister came and gave me the information on one of the girls that was out there. And so it was something that it would have been nice to have an outreach person come and do intake. But in those type of circumstances, you prefer that we just go ahead and put them in an LA hop?
Absolutely. There's no direct contact. And our teams, although we have 196 folks, we are stretched very, very thin, trying to house folks across the county. So definitely do LA hop. And if something's an emergency and you feel like, you know, this needs attention ASAP, you guys always are encouraged to call 911, and you can specify on your 911 call that they need to say that.
Oh, you disappeared. Okay. You went away, Brittany.
Can you hear me now?
Try it again.
Hold
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. You guys are always encouraged to call 911 and request a PET team or MET team, depending on where you're at, to come out. And even DMH has an access line that you can request observation and someone to come out and do an assessment in a specific location.
Do you have that one? Because we did.
I will put it in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. And everyone feel free to jot these links down. You never know when you'll come across something where they need assistance.
Just so you know, this is Laura speaking. You're essentially, if you're chatting to me, and then I'm posting it to everybody.
Right. Thank you.
And that's
yeah.
just for virtual governance protocols. So, but I'm watching, I'm posting, and everyone who's on this meeting, you can save the chat. And if you didn't manage to do that, you can always email us and we can send you the chat.
Yeah, anyone on the call, if you see the little 3 dots at the bottom next to file, you can click on there and it says, oh, this was a little participant can chat. Well, save chat, first thing. Okay. Thank you, 800-854. Oh yeah, okay. You get that number, Hugh, for DMH?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Clementine, I would like to thank you for putting our Britneys together and getting the presentation. I'm really surprised we don't have 1,000,001 questions, but that tells me you did an excellent job of presenting the information that people wanted to hear. So
I have a question, Tori.
Okay, Don.
I think many of the people that we see within the mid-city area near where I am have mental health issues. And I'm wondering, do you have regular mental health support? We've had to reach out to our SLOs regarding people who have serious, either drug-related or mental health issues. Tori knows of which I speak. 28th and Crenshaw by the Taco Bell has serious drug-related problems now. What are we to do? Other than, and people are saying the police should not be involved with this. Who should?
Again, LA HOP. And if you feel that it is a mental health crisis, if you call the police, you ask specifically for the PET team, the psychiatric engagement team. You can also
Which
use the
we do, but no one ever shows up.
You can also
I've
use
had
that
a lady
DMH.
walking naked down 25th in the avenues, and we didn't get anyone at all.
You can also use that DMH access line that I put in the chat. We do have multidisciplinary teams who come out regularly and perform their own outreach, but know that they are also spread thin. They're a DMH team and there's fewer of them than there is of LAHSA outreach. LAHSA is not specialized in clinical services, but we do have the support of our MDT teams. And if it needs to be escalated further, there's a DMH home team who essentially provides services to the gravely disabled or gravely disabled adjacent and brings psychiatric inpatient services to the street.
Oh, I need that number. I need that.
That goes through LA HOP. Everything
Okay.
funnels through LA HOP. And
Okay,
we'll send the
perfect.
appropriate team as long as you guys, your descriptions are appropriate of what is going on. And even if it's not, it'll just take a little longer to get the right team out.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate that because, you know, I hadn't been in the habit of using LA Hop. I was going direct to outreach and they was like, send me someone. So I'll start using LA Hop more. And maybe we'll get more detailed instruction and information. Okay.
I
Well,
covered
thank
the
you.
drug issues that I was talking about, people who are dealing and or using drugs on the street. They're next to 28th at Crenshaw. Have you been there, Tori?
I've been there.
Because I have reached out, but gotten nowhere. So I just wanted to point out 28th at Crenshaw, and it has increased in size since they closed the Bronson near Johnny's Pastrami. It has increased in size. I realize all these, I'm a special needs teacher. I know about pet teams. I know about all of that, but you have to have people answering from the other end. So Tori, you know where it is. You're the leader.
Yeah, you're talking about the.
Let me know if this is actually happening because
Okay, I'll come get you. Or vice versa. Probably within the week or so we can see what's what and see if things change. I plan on going around pretty soon because I'm having someone order me some more of those blankets that we give out. So especially I think the rain is gonna come more. It's coming later this year, so we'll see. I plan on giving out so I'll be able to see how everybody's doing or who's still there and who's not. But I had another question. I've written so much, it's like, oh, the tiny home developments. And the tiny home villages, how many of those exist now, Brittany? Either
Brittany, do you know the number?
I don't know the exact number, but let me try to
Of
get an
actual
estimate
villages.
really quickly.
When you say villages, how many homes does that entail?
So they're varied based on the service, like the location. So how many people the location can actually accommodate, and also how many the funding can accommodate. Sometimes even if the lot or the location could accommodate more people, this funding doesn't come directly all through just LAHSA, right? Some of these funds come at the local level from funding that they're providing in order to have these locations, and it also depends on where the land comes from, whether it's a church or whether it's being bought or whether it's being leased. So there's a lot of variables, but I will say that it depends very much on where that funding is coming from and how much they can accommodate. So those sites do require 24-hour services. There's someone there that's just making sure everything is safe, right? And so the cost goes beyond just the physical tiny house. And then there's also restroom facilities. A lot of times there's also laundry facilities. So it really varies by location based on how many people it is, what the location is, how expensive that location is.
So do they know the average time it takes to build a tiny village or tiny home? Say one home, what's the average time? Do they know?
So they don't actually take a long time, but it also varies by municipality because these are usually like, kind of like, think of them like prefab, right? They're like puzzle pieces.
Right.
So they can put those things up in a day, 2 days, 3 days, but to build a whole village, it may take time, right? Do they have water there? Do they have, is it gravel and it needs to be cemented, paved? All those things really change the time. But as far as the actual structures themselves, if you go online and you look at, I believe, Seattle and what they've done in Washington, a lot of those companies are the same companies that people are trying to utilize, but they're more expensive. There are some local providers that are cheaper, but it might just give you an idea of what it looks what it looks like to put them up. They're really quick. They can go up in no time.
That was another thing. I was looking at, the 64 square feet for 130,000. That's one of the quotes that I heard on the news and through some of my correspondence through the mayor's office. Is that average? Is that the average budgeted item amount?
So I believe some of this stuff is available online depending on who's funding it, right? Like if there's an open proposal for like if people are able to bid on these processes, and it varies by city, but that cost, it's not the physical building mostly, it's the wraparound services, it's the mental health services, it's the security person that's 24 hours a day, there's someone there for security, it's the laundry facilities, and it's the cleaning them, right? So all those costs are not really for the tiny house per se, they're actually for the care that is being received by someone who's occupying them. The cost of the actual tiny home is, I don't even think you can bill it that way. It's billed based on housing the person. Or people, right? Because some of them can house 2 people. So it may be a couple that's being housed together. They're allowed to be housed together. And then in addition to that, there's storage. Sometimes that's allotted a whole nother space to store any items.
And it looks like there's 3 open tiny home villages that are LAHSA funded. And then 4 that are in the process of being built.
4 in addition to the 3 that already exist?
Yes, 4 coming online.
4 actual village. What usually constitutes a village? The ones you're looking at?
What constitutes a village is several
Is
pallet
it 10 or more? Pardon me?
It's just several pallet shelters. We can't put a number on it. It's whatever the space allows. So pallet shelters occupying a space of land.
Okay. Pallet shelters. Okay. I think that's pretty much.
I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Laura, and Tori, how's everyone? So listen, I do have a couple questions. There's a guy that has a little tiny shelter that's been built, a wood shelter on Venice as you're going west, like towards Kaiser, like right on the median. Does anyone know about that? I mean, are people going to be allowed to do that?
Venice underneath the 10 freeway?
No. So if you're driving down Venice going towards Kaiser, going west, on the left-hand side on the medium, there's a guy, I can send you a picture of it, Tori. There's a guy has built a little like plywood shelter, sits out there, really nice guy. And he just built it, or someone helped him build it. And it's about, 6 feet by maybe 10 feet. It's sitting right out there. And it's been out there for the last couple of months.
I think I saw that. Send me a picture of it.
Okay. So, but it's not, I mean, my question is, he's built it. I don't know if anyone said anything to him about the city. It's on city property, of course. I'm just wondering if that's what we're going to get the privilege of seeing, people just building these things all over the city.
That's something that you need to discuss with your council district and municipalities. Folks do
Okay.
take shelter on the street. They are homeless.
Okay, well, he's built a little house, it's wood. So the other question that I have is that, and I'm sorry I had to join the meeting late, but there's a little lady that's a sweetheart. Her name is Virginia. And she stands on the median at Fairfax and Venice as well. I spoke with her the other day. And I talked to her for a little bit. She does have some mental illness. I'm in healthcare, so I kind of recognize that. And
Right.
but I asked her, was she aware that there was housing, permanent housing or housing for her? And she said no. And I asked her, would she be interested? And she said, yes, I would be. Now, she might have said that right then and there, but who knows? So how could I get someone out there? Would I call the pet team to talk to her?
No, you will do a request through LA Hop.
Okay. And what is that number?
I put the website in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Whose voice is that anyway?
This
Who's
is
that speaking?
Bev.
Man, I thought that was you. Okay, I thought it was you.
I'm gonna send you the picture, Lori. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Tori.
Yeah,
thanks.
send that to me. And yeah, the websites are in the chat. You should be
Okay.
able to see them.
Okay. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No
Okay,
problem.
well, it's about 8:35 now.
I have a
and-
question or a concern, really.
Okay, David.
It's regarding the winter homeless shelters. I noticed that in South LA and in sort of our neighborhood in West Adams, there were 7 times as many winter homeless shelters as there were anywhere else in LA. And I'm concerned that the sudden rush to get rid of homeless at Skid Row is going to affect our community the most again. And I was wondering if there's any way that they are trying to spread that out around the whole city, especially to richer areas which can really afford to house them.
So just to kind of speak to your question, David, there are several housing opportunities that are online and coming online within Skid Row. The plan is not to push them out. We like to keep folks who are experiencing homeless within a community in their community as much as possible. If there's a lot of winter shelters in one space, it's because there was a space to do it, and that's what the city chose to do with that funding. So our idea is never to push folks out or push folks to another council district or a spa to become someone else's problem.
Thank you.
I also have to say that LASA team needs to step off the call. So if there's any final comments, we have about 1 more minute.
That's perfect because we usually end on time. But I just really quickly, I want to say thank you to all of you. I want you to stay in touch and feel free to come in, when time allows, and I'll start sending Tina the agendas in the future, so you'll be aware of what's what, when, where, how. But I think that was pretty much it. We didn't have anything
I had
else.
one quick question. You have opportunity to offer housing when you walk to people, not you, Brittany and Brittany, but the team that goes out. As they did at Echo Park, they were offered housing, they were handed vouchers, they were given to say, you're going inside, we're not dropping you on the corner 5 miles from here. People turned it down. What do you do?
We continue to engage because they may not trust us. Vouchers were not handed out at Echo Park. And while it seems like it was a 1 day or 1 week operation, teams had been in the park for months prior to that day.
Okay.
There just was a deadline placed by the city. So again, we build rapport, we build relationships, we gain their trust. We show them that there is something tangible, a tangible housing option that they can go to. We provide them with more than one option because just because they're homeless doesn't mean they don't have a choice, right? Folks may not want to be in a congregate shelter, and that may be all to offer in their area. There's also stipulations to beds that are available. So everyone may not qualify for everything that we're offering.
Okay, that being the truth, the fact was that they were not going to be allowed to stay at the lake. at the Echo Park area. What
Yes,
do you do at that point?
they were closing the lake. So we offered whatever housing resources. We called up several council districts and got housing wherever we could, as long as the council district allowed it. And for folks who don't engage, we continue to go around that area of Echo Park and try to engage them.
Okay.
But I am so
Okay.
sorry. We
Thank
really,
you.
truly have to go now.
Thank
I
you.
hope
Okay.
you all have
Thank
a
you.
lovely night.
You too.
Good night.
Thank you, Brittany. David, I wanted
Bye.
to address something. Bye, you guys. Bye, Clementina, you staying on?
Tori, thank you so much. Take care.
Oh, thank you too. I'll keep in touch.
We'll keep in
David.
touch definitely. Okay,
Oh,
bye.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye. David, I wanted to address that question you just had. It depends on what your definition of a winter shelter. I had the list and our area wasn't inundated with winter shelters. Winter shelters are only the ones that's from November to March, and they extended this one a little to April. So what were you thinking when you said winter shelter?
I don't have the latest data, but at one stage we had 7 winter shelters, and not a single another council district had more than 1, and many had none.
Well, I'm gonna double check that. What list are you looking at?
I just remember this detail from when we had an issue with McCarty.
Huh, okay.
And
Oh,
every
oh,
single,
Tori,
I remember
you remember
the
that
issue.
story when they
Yeah, I
were,
remember that.
yes,
I
you
remember
know
that.
the story and you know what they were doing. So
I know, I do remember that.
they were
When you said
picking up,
McCarthy,
they were picking up
What-
from downtown LA and bringing them here.
yeah, I
And that
remember
was
that
our
issue.
concern.
and
Yeah, that was
Lhasa,
2018. That was 2018 or
yeah,
2019.
and Lhasa on their website said for every one of those shelters, they were picking the people up from Skid Row and the LA, what's that church down there, and bringing them to those winter shelters. So it wasn't our local
Ah.
area. All of them were being
Okay. Yeah, we got past that issue, but that was 2018, 2019.
Right.
But every year is different. So winter shelter is literally only November to March normally,
Mhm.
only winter months, and not everybody goes to those, but just remember, every year is different.
Yeah.
So McCarthy hasn't done that since.
No,
Oh,
no.
they're not doing it at all.
Right.
Remember my cousin?
I remember very vividly.
Okay.
So we
So
don't
they
have to
never
worry about
did
that
it there.
anymore.
That never
We don't have
happened,
to worry.
Tori.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that one anymore, trust me.
No, yes.
But any other concerns, questions, or see anything we can get involved in to make a difference? I mean, where can we build a tiny village in the footprint of the 10th district, other than
I
what
don't know
Herb
how
did?
we have so much low-income housing. We have no place to build anything
really.
else, okay?
Right. And then Adams, they building so much down Adams. It's like,
Yeah, so
wow.
we don't have space for that.
Right.
So I don't think that would be workable. And
Right.
In
like
terms
they
of
said, the 10th district and the 9th and 8th have taken most of what is going on, so.
in terms of
much.
society, I'm worried that they're getting people accustomed to living in 54 square feet. And I really think that our country is so rich, we shouldn't be
Yeah.
cramming people into those ridiculous spaces.
I agree. I said 64 square feet. We can get 100 square feet for $4,000 if you really look at some of the what are they called? The homes that snap together, the prefabs.
Yes.
I mean, if we had to. I mean, what's the average, Maxine, you in construction, what would be an average, what would we all think would be suitable for a human to live in every day? Not 64 square feet. So what would be
So the
nice
average
size
one
home?
bedroom apartment is like 600 square feet.
Right, okay. So 600 is the average one bedroom, okay? And, okay, so even if it was 200, is better than 64 square feet. I went to Inglewood and looked at a couple of the tiny home models they had set up not long ago off of Prairie. And those were really nice. They weren't as big as the normal tiny home that I've looked at for some of the, what's the lady on the commercial that does the, not the ADU, what do they call them? The hotel, the sub hotels?
What, the ADUs, their backyards?
Yeah, but what were they doing
The room key
instead of
one,
hotels? What's it called?
the room key ones.
No, not homeless. When people were traveling, they come to the house instead of a hotel.
A motel.
No.
No, not no motel. What was that called? Everybody was doing it for a minute.
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Airbnb, correct.
Airbnb was what I was thinking about. Okay, so I went to visit the lady on television that does the commercials. Now she converted her garage into this Airbnb. It was just really beautiful and functional. They had bookcases. She had step-up bathroom. It was just really nice. So she moved out of the front house and moved to the back house and used the front all for Airbnb room. And so I said, even that square footage, it was like 250 or two. I mean, we could do better than 64 square feet.
Yeah.
So even if we got quotes from anywhere else, hi Laura, we're gonna wrap it up right
The
now.
only way I can raise my hand.
Oh, no Zoom, okay.
So whenever you're ready to call on me.
Okay, that'd be in about 2 minutes.
No, I'm not trying to end it. I'm trying to join this conversation.
Oh, okay. You have a question?
I have a conversation.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, a couple of years ago, you might remember we UNNC and the community worked to save the property at 1828 South Gramercy Place, big Victorian house in the front and a little cottage in the rear. So the little cottage was built in the early 1920s by a company called Pacific Ready Cut. And they were one of the original prefab companies. So they basically prefabricated out of wood little houses about 640 square feet with an 8x10 kitchen. I'm obviously reading out loud. And this was all wood, and they pre-marked everything, and then they would be assembled on the site in 2 days. They made hundreds of thousands of these. And they were mostly built, well, Jefferson Park is filled with them. You know, the backyards of a lot of the properties in Angeles Vista are filled with them. And why can't we do what we were able to do 100 years ago? You know what I mean? I mean, it wouldn't still cost $1,000. That's what they cost at the time.
Right.
But it's like, how much do these units cost? I mean, it's crazy. But those were 600 square feet or 650 square feet, not 64 square feet.
That's my point.
Yes.
So if we could get a company to do that, that would be awesome, because like at UCLA Library right there on Adams, they have the little living space there. A lot of them have it. And even at Marvin Gaye's house, remember the cottage in the back?
Yeah.
I mean, it's plenty of them around the area. So we need to figure out if we can duplicate a model, and that can be one of our projects, you know, duplicate a model and do 10 of them or something.
Right.
And what's with that lot on the corner of Gramercy and
well, the city doesn't own that, but I'm just saying. Yeah, it does seem like a big oversight at this point that the city didn't somehow acquire it, but that was not to be, you know. So but my point is, so Sears Roebuck, if you remember Sears, but it used to be the Sears Roebuck company, and they built pre-cut mail order kit houses, and essentially in the 20s they sold 110,000 of those. So it's that sort of thing, is that we're not thinking outside the box, and that's maybe more appropriate conversation to ADUs. I mean, this came up a couple of weeks ago at the Planning and Zoning Committee when we had the presentation discussion on ADUs. But we could solve our housing crisis at multiple levels if we would do things differently.
I agree. So maybe we'll have to get a couple of bids on some pre-cut, prefab
Yeah,
housing.
right. Yeah,
Kits
and
or
not made out of
something and-
metal, made out of, anyway, renewable
Yeah, made out of-
resources.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. So we'll have to, maybe that's a project, Hugh, we can work on, everybody. Maybe come up with something at 10 models and sell them to the city or county. And then see
I
what we can do
kind
with
of feel
that.
we could just download the Pacific Ready Build or Ready Cut Company's catalog, because they had all the plans in them, and say, hey, now obviously wood costs more, but anyway, that
It won't cost 130,000
no, it does
more.
not.
So we can work on that.
Right.
Let's think about it. We have time. But thank you all for coming. I hope
Thank
you
you.
took the information in the
Thank you, Tori.
chat so we can utilize it in the future. And let's see what we can come up with some solutions.
Right. And
Thank
so
you,
for
David.
wait, don't go away yet. Just again, remember you
Okay.
save the chat. If you're not used to doing
Yeah.
that, what you do is, take your cursor down to the bottom of the black
I
screen.
know, I
and
did
click
it.
on
I
chat.
saved it.
I know you
I
did, but
saved
I'm
it.
repeating it. Oh, you can save the chat, but I'm
Oh.
telling everybody else.
Oh.
Open up the chat and then hit the 3 little dots like Tori told you earlier. Click on the 3 little dots and you'll see the phrase save chat. And you'll get
Yes.
contact informations downloaded to your own computers.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good night.
Good
Until
night.
next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye, David.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Max. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. I'm ending the meeting.